welcome to the channel. Thank you for stopping by and checking out my thoughts on the Xbox Bethesda Game Showcase, which aired today, June 12th, at 11 a.m. Central Time. It was a good show. I think it was a decent show. I don't think it was spectacular. I actually think that they fell short in some areas. They had some strong points for sure, but I have every game listed, and I think I covered all of the timed exclusive versus multi-platform. I was trying to make sure, because sometimes they flash the release dates and they flash like little bits of information, like the studio who's developing each game. So I think I covered it all, but don't hold me to that. I may have slipped up and I might have one of these wrong. But let's go ahead and dive into this, because this was a pretty long showcase, actually. And one thing I can't stand, and I just got to say this, and this goes for PlayStation, Nintendo, whatever. I hate it when you tune in for a stream that's supposed to go like this. This showcase was supposed to be at 11 or whatever. But then like the video, there's like this timer that goes on and on for like 20 minutes or 30 minutes or 10 minutes. And then the show kicks off. I understand for streaming purposes, in terms of, I guess, when they start the channel and they start the stream or whatever, but I don't understand when they repost it. Just cut out that fucking 20 minutes. I don't understand that, because I watched it as it was happening. I was a few minutes behind, but I watched it from front to back, and then I went back and watched it a second time, put my notes together, and I noticed like the very beginning of the stream, it was like a 20-minute timer that I had to like fast forward through. So I don't know why they can't just crop that shit out. But regardless, let's start in with the actual game releases here. So these games are supposedly going to be in the next 12 months. That's obviously barring any sort of delays or anything like that. But I thought that was an interesting point for them to make, for Xbox to make, that in the next year, this is what will be coming out on Xbox. There are some exclusives. There's some timed exclusives, like I said before. So, yeah, I don't know. I definitely have some thoughts about that. But the first game they showed was Redfall. That's Bethesda Arcane Studios. This is an Xbox exclusive. It is on Game Pass, and it'll be coming out in 2023. That's all we know. This was actual gameplay, and I gotta say, I was getting. It's a first-person shooter, PvE, player versus environment. I believe it's 4-player co-op, if I'm not mistaken. And to me, I was getting Left 4 Dead, Back 4 Blood vibes. That's pretty much what this is. Not a bad thing. I think I didn't play Left 4 Dead, but I know that was really popular. I played Back 4 Blood, had a lot of fun with it. I talked about it on, I don't know, multiple times on different videos, and I don't have any problem with it. So I think the thing that kind of turns me off about this game is the characters. They're just kind of, I don't know. I will say this. They weren't as cringe and annoying in this gameplay trailer. It was kind of actually toned down, but it was still kind of, I don't know. It was still, I don't know. I just didn't like it. I didn't like the little comments they were making, but it wasn't bad. Visually, I think it looks good. I think the gameplay looked pretty solid. It's always kind of hard to tell, but for the most part, it looked like it was pretty fluid, and the motion was good, and the enemies coming at you and everything. So I think this one looked, like I said, graphically, I think it looked good. Gameplay, I think it looked good. There's a theme throughout this whole show which really annoyed me. There were so many moments where it was just like a fucking music video, where they put some hip hop shit, and it's a trailer and it's supposed to get you all gassed up. I don't mind trailers like that, but I felt like that shit was happening a lot in this show. So it was a decent opening, and then you see some gameplay, and then it kicks into like the music, and then you got this, I don't even know the track that was behind it, but it's supposed to get you fired up, and I don't have a problem with that. But the problem I have is it was just like constant in this show. But overall, I think this game, actually seeing gameplay now, I think it kind of gives, it gives context to the game, and I think it looks pretty good. So it looks better than what I thought it was going to be, because I was checked out. The first trailer, I thought the shit looked stupid. So next up was Hollow Knight Silk Song. This is a multi-platform game coming out on Game Pass. I didn't catch a release date on this one. I think I might have missed it. They were pretty good with coming 2023, coming early next year or whatever. It's actually I'm watching the gameplay a little bit right here on my screen here. I got it minimized. Maybe it'll pop up and it'll say the release date. So this is a sequel to a game called Hollow Knight. I never played it. It got a lot of love. It's a side scroller beat 'em up type game. The art style I think is really cool. It looks pretty neat. Graphically, it's strong. The gameplay looks strong. I'm just waiting for the. No, actually, didn't release date. Didn't come up. I thought it looked pretty good. I'm just not a huge side-scrolling fan. Like that's just not really my thing. I used to play the shit out of them when I was a kid, but not anymore. So, but people who liked Hollow Knight, I think this is going to be great for them. I'm sure there's people who are fucking stoked to even see this. So, all right, the next game that came up was called High on Life. This was by Squanch Games. This is a timed exclusive coming out on Game Pass. October 2022 is the release date. So I will say this: there were a lot of games that were they would say timed exclusive or whatever, and then I think everything, if it didn't say Game Pass, like they would do, like the screen would just come out and say available on day one on Game Pass. But some games, they just would drop a little banner at the bottom left of the screen and it would say Game Pass. So I think, if I'm not mistaken, every single game that they showed will be on Game Pass, either for Xbox or PC. So, but this game, I thought so it's a first-person shooter. I think it's a funky and fun concept. You're a human on an alien planet fighting drug dealer aliens who harvest humans to make drugs. I think it's a cool concept. I like that. The guns that you hold, they're like animals or creatures. Like they talk to you. Like there's a little mouth facing you where the hammer would be. There's like face there, and I thought it was kind of cute. I thought it was funny. The gun variety looked pretty cool. I mean, each gun is just another little creature. It almost looks like a slug. But again, I didn't think it looked terrible. To me, and I meant to say this at the very beginning, I think a lot of games that they showed really were that sort of double A. And what I mean by that is, like, a triple A game is where the studio just they have a huge budget. You're talking about a Halo game or an Uncharted game, Mario, something like that, where they throw all of the money and resources at it. And there's a really high expectation. It's high investment with the expectation of a high return. Now, a while back, I'm going to say, I don't know, I'm trying to think of where I was. I think it's probably been about like 8 years or so was when the big like double A games sort of ended. So there's like indie games, which are low budget. Then there's like the mid tier, which they call like double A studio or double A. And again, it's not a name of a studio. It's just like if you think about it like with a movie, it's like a big blockbuster like Top Gun versus a low budget, indie movie, right? And there was a sort of middle tier of developers that didn't have quite the budget, but they were still putting out quality games, and you could find some gems in this sort of double A space. I actually felt like there was a lot of double A games that Xbox showed in this showcase. So, and that's not a bad thing. I'm not talking shit on that at all. There's some great double A games, like I said, games that I've loved. But I really felt like this game, High on Life, sort of felt like it was double A. Like it didn't have the huge production value, but it had something new. And that's what a lot of double A studios used to be known for. They were usually independent studios who may have been published by this big, gigantic publisher, but they were usually a smaller studio that were not afraid to use new mechanics, introduce, different things, themes. They would take risks, and this really felt like that. Like just seeing the gun, like the talking gun, the way it was, and then the concept of humans being used as to produce drugs for aliens. I thought it was cool. It's a cool concept, and it's something that really kind of, it's fringe. It's like, oh, that's a different, and that's what double A was really known for back in the day. And I felt like there was so many. I'm trying to think of the studios like THQ, and Midway. Those studios were really like known as AA studios, and you really could you really could find some good games within that. But a lot of those studios got bought up. They got bought up by larger studios or actual publishing houses or Sony or Microsoft or whatever. So it's nice to kind of see the double A's sort of coming back because I think it's cool. And you get shit like this, so it's not a bad thing. The art style was cool and all. And again, after I say all this about this game, to me, this looks like a good Game Pass game. This looks like a game that might be like, hey, that's a really cool game. Let me go check it out. But I didn't see it as like, oh, you got to get that one. Like that's not a Starfield. It didn't seem like that to me. And there's a lot of these games like that. So let's move along here. Let's see. So this next round. So I'm going to name these off, and I don't really give a shit about any of these games because they're all games that are like big multiplayer type games that are huge. They have huge followings. They make tons of money annually with like events, tournaments and shit like that. But I'm just not really a fan of these types of games. So you have League of Legends, Wild Rift, Legends of Runeterra, Teamfight Tactics, and Valorant. So these were all PC/mobile games. They're due out winter 2022, and they will be coming to Game Pass. Go check them out. I've heard of most of these games. The one that I didn't really know was the Legends of Runeterra. I've never heard of that, but the other games I've all heard of them, but I've never played them, and they're just not my style of game. But check them out. So the next one that popped up was A Plague Tale Requiem. This is from Focus Entertainment and Asabo Studio. I might be saying that wrong. This is a multi-platform. This is on Game Pass, coming 2022. It's a third-person melee game. It's actually a sequel to a game that was just called A Plague's Tale, and it's very popular. I don't really know much about it. I know that it's based in like the Spanish flu with like the rats and everything, and that's sort of the whole story. You're surviving to, and you're pushing through like a narrative as well, but you're surviving to escape this plague. And there's some like supernatural, mechanics and things like that. But it looked cool, but I just never played it. But it got a lot of praise for the narrative. It's a very popular game. I didn't see anything that was super groundbreaking in this sequel, but it looked pretty cool. It didn't look bad. It didn't do much for me. So I'll just leave it at that. Next up was Forza Motorsport. I actually thought there was, if I'm not mistaken, I think it's supposed to be Forza Motorsport 7, but they just dropped the number, so I don't know if this is a new direction. I've never played these games, so I'm just not sure. But this is an Xbox game studio. It is an exclusive. It's coming spring 2023. It will be on Game Pass. I really thought this looked fantastic. I'm a car guy. I like racing games. I thought it looked really, really good. The sounds sounded good, like the audio cues from like the cars and stuff. All good with that. Again, it was another fucking music video with some Jay-Z behind it, and I don't know what it is. This is like a new thing, and I'm sure it's very cool for the kids, but I'm getting a little bit older, and I prefer more of that or like orchestral or independent like sound design, or like a song that's written for the game that's like within the game, like an actual score, and not just let's go grab some artist that's hot and or has a big name and just throw them on, and do a trailer that gets everyone, gassed up. It's not really my thing anymore. I'm sure people love it. You may love it, but I just don't like it. And once that kicked in, I was like, oh boy, here we go again. But then they went into like a demo of the tech that they're using. I was kind of mixed on this. I guess it's a big deal that they were shooting everything, or the it wasn't actual gameplay. So that's the thing. It was like a demo, but it was like a tech demo where it was a single camera perspective that moved around at will. So it was like a designer or developer was at the helm, sort of controlling what we were seeing, and the camera just sort of moved in different directions and covered different areas of the track, and got some super close-up shots of an engine bay on some sweet-looking ride. Everything visually looked really good, but I didn't really, I wasn't super impressed with that. In fact, I thought it kind of slowed everything down. Like they were just two developers and they're narrating what we're seeing on screen and they're using fancy words and they're trying to sell the game. And I don't have any beef with that. That's cool. But to me, it just sort of slowed down. It was like bogging down. It's like, okay, that's fine. We've seen enough cool shit. Can we just move along? And they're like zooming in on fucking grass and like, oh, check out the grass. Like, who cares? Like, it's just not that, it wasn't that appealing. So, all right. The next up was Flight Simulator 40th Anniversary. This is Xbox Game Studios. It is an exclusive on Game Pass, November 2022. This game to me always looks fantastic. I love it. I think it looks really cool. Back in the day, back in the 90s, when I was PC gaming, I really enjoyed flight simulators or air combat games. You know, I didn't have my pops. He was really big into the flight simulators and the fighting games too, or the flight combat games. And we had a joystick and a throttle and everything, and I spent so many hours just dogfighting, and I don't even remember the games because these were PC games back in the 90s. I don't even recall, but I used to play the hell out of them. So I kind of have a soft spot for flight simulators. And if I was 15 years old, and this is what I was getting to play, especially because I love airplanes and, jets. I love going to air shows, and it's just so cool. I wanted to be a pilot when I was a kid, saw Top Gun, and, that I just like, oh my God, I want to be Maverick. I really like anything that has to do with planes and jets and shit like that. The different area, they showed like different locales, and it was a pretty cool shot of like one vehicle or like, an airplane or a helicopter. And then like the scenes behind the settings would just keep changing as the vehicle was moving. Man, I would love to play this game. This game looks really cool. And you can tell like it's just polished. And again, I know some people just check out when they see games like this. There's no fighting. There's no story. There's no RPG elements that I know of. You're just flying aircraft. I know that sounds cheesy, but to me, I was all in. So good for them. Oh, and there's a Halo add-on that's coming. I think it's available. I think it said available today. That's cool. Good if you're a Halo fan and you like the flight simulator. There you go. All right, next up was Overwatch 2. This is by Blizzard. This is by Blizzard. It's a multi-platform game. It's free to play, early access, October 4th, 2022. Now, that's what they showed. I swear. So there was a Summer Games Fest, which I'll cover in another video, and a State of Play, which I need to cover as well. I swear Overwatch 2 got like a release date for next year, if I'm not mistaken. But I could be wrong. And when I saw the early access coming, what was it? This October 4th. To me, I think this is just to play like beta shit, but I could be wrong. That kind of threw me when I saw it. I'm like, well, where's the release date? But I thought it was releasing next year. And it's a first-person shooter. It's a hero shooter. I'm not a fan of hero shooters. Never have been. I think they have their place. And Overwatch won Game of the Year, I think in like 2016 or something like that. The original one. I thought there were other games that got snubbed for this one, but I understand that this game, when it came out, it was really popular. Everyone was playing it except yours truly. But it just wasn't my thing. Just at the time I was like, whatever, hero shooter, it looked silly. I wasn't feeling it, but it's a very popular game. The gameplay to me looked fine. They showed gameplay. I'd already seen some from a previous trailer. So, if you love Overwatch, this looks like more of the same. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. There was some heat that I forgot what it was, man. It's driving me nuts. They released something, a trailer of some kind, and I remember it got a lot of heat because a lot of people said it looked like just more of the same. It didn't look innovative. It just looked like Overwatch 2.0. So I get that. I understand the point of view, but when people say that, sometimes that can be a dig that doesn't really have any weight behind it, because sometimes more of the same is a good thing. I'm playing Sniper Elite 5 right now. There are some iterations and changes from the previous game, but it's more of the same, and I'm loving it. So you know what I mean? Like it's hard for me. Like when I hear people say that, and especially someone who doesn't even like the franchise or play it, I just leave it to them. But there was some heat that it caught for looking samey. So the next game here was Ara, History Untold. This is an Xbox and Oxide games. Never heard of them. No release date. It looks like this is a PC game. It's a turn-based strategy game, and it was just a cinematic trailer. It didn't do anything for me. Um, I like strategy games. I like RTS games, but this was literally just a cinematic panning through, showing you some cool, pretty stuff. It really didn't show any gameplay. I do got to give a shout out here. So the woman who was narrating this one, I'm going to butcher this name, so I apologize in advance. It's Shorey Agdashlu. She was narrating it. She is from the show called Expanse. If you've never seen it, it got a little weird at the end, but I still think it's a good show and it's worth watching. She plays a character in there. Her name's Christian, and she has a very distinct voice. She's been fucking smoking cigars from the crack of dawn until she goes to bed. Like for the last 50 years, her voice is like very distinct. I don't know if that's a thing. Like if that's just her natural voice, or if she has some sort of issue. I mean, I'm not shit talking. I think her voice sounds cool, but it's very raspy. But she was narrating. I thought it was cool. I immediately smiled when I heard her voice. But again, CGI trailer doesn't really tell you much. Next up was the Elder Scrolls Online, the High Isle expansion. This is Bethesda and ZeniMax multi-platform, coming June 21st. I knew about this one. I play ESO, Elder Scrolls Online. I always dive back in and I'll play some of the new shit, especially like this. I'll dive in and go to the new area and see the sites and do all the missions and stuff. I'm not a big like multiplayer person. You can fight, you can go PvP, or you can do dungeons with other players as well. I always just play the game by myself. The narrative stuff is really cool. It's so funny because showing this game to somebody, it would look really boring, but to me, like the music is so great. I love the music. It like really transports me when I hear music in certain settings and shit like that. It's always top notch. So, but the visuals, the visuals look pretty. I won't say look like shit, but they don't look like. It looks like last gen, at the bare minimum, but it's an MMO, so that's why. It's a massive multiplayer online. There's tons of people on the servers. It's huge. This game, I couldn't even imagine like starting right now today and going through and playing every single area of this game. I don't even want to guess how long it would take, but usually when these expansion comes out, it's a new area of the map that opens up. It's got a bunch of side quests and stories, but there's usually there always is a mainline arc of a story that goes from beginning to end, and they usually do a really good job of it. I like this game, but it's not for everybody, and I get it. But I will be playing this one. All right, next up, Fallout 76, The Pit. This is Bethesda Studios. This is multi-platform, September 2022, Game Pass available. So this is a first-person online shooter. I don't think it has any player versus player aspects to it. If I'm not mistaken, it's just a PvE, player versus environment. This game crashed and burned when it first came out. It was this is kind of the one game that when people brag about Bethesda and they talk about Todd Howard being like, they call him like God Howard and shit like that, like he fucking blatantly lied about this game. Blatantly. He came out and said a bunch of bullshit. None of it was true. And there's another article, I guess, that came out from Kotaku just like a week or two ago. I'm not a huge Kotaku fan, but they do somewhat of investigative reporting. But anyways, there was some information that came out about Todd Howard and Fallout 76 and the production and the development of the game, and just a lot of bad shit came out. So I'm not surprised when I read the article. I was like, okay, yeah, par for the course. But I still think that a lot of people overlook 76's failure. And when I see the trailer for it, it doesn't look good. It looks substandard. It looks janky. It doesn't look that good. They really try to spruce it up. They do another fucking music video montage of the gameplay. I just don't think it looks good. If you're a 76er and you like this game and you're excited for this, that's cool. Like I said, I play ESO. That has its issues. I can understand if people don't like that type of game. So, I mean, I understand. Like everyone, to each their own. But to me, I just think this looks trash. So, not interested in this whatsoever. Next up was Forza Horizon 5 Hot Wheels Edition. So, this is DLC or whatever you want to call it. This is by Playground Games. It is an exclusive, obviously. It's going to be on Game Pass. It's coming out July 19th. Wow, word salad. July 19th, 2022. I don't know why that happens sometimes. I don't know, my tongue just disagrees with my brain. I think this looks really cool. As a kid, I had, a bunch of cars. I used to collect like the Hot Wheels cars. I never had the tracks, though. We were kind of broke, but I did have some cars that I would just fucking play all day with. These things. I loved them. That and like Legos. Those are the toys of choice for me. I think it looks cool. The previous, they did I think it was for Forza 4, but they did a Hot Wheels add-on before, and it was really successful. People loved it. So, and I think it looked cool. So, good for them. Good for if you are a Forza 5 or a Forza Horizon fan, this looks cool. All right. So next up is, this is a timed exclusive called Arc 2. It's coming 2023. It will be on Game Pass. So Arc 1 just came to console not too long ago. People really like this game. It's really fucking popular. It doesn't do shit for me. I'm one of my buddies from work. He and his girl play this game. They really like it, and they were having a lot of fun playing it. I've watched people play it. It doesn't do anything for me. It's a survival game where you're like basically like a caveman. You have minimal tools, and it's all about foraging for resources to build better shit, to then face off against possibly other players. You get to build your base. You can tame dinosaurs to do work for you, and you can ride them around and they'll fight for you and that type of shit. All sounds fine. Sounds great. Just not for me. Just not my, when I saw the game, I was like, oh, it kind of looks interesting, but some people like spur out over fucking dinosaurs. Like, oh my God, anything dinosaurs, I'm going to play. I've never been that type of person. So, but it's not bad. It's a very popular game. So that's just my opinion. Next up was a game called Scorn. This was, I couldn't tell. Like I said, they flashed some of the information really quick. It says Kepler. That was the name. I don't know if that's the publisher or the studio, but it was Kepler. Also EBB Software. They're the developer and maybe publisher. This is a timed exclusive coming on Game Pass October 21st, 2022. It's a first-person horror game. It looked okay to me. I didn't really think it didn't do anything special. In my opinion, it looked like a lower tier, like a AA game. It didn't look, like huge production. So during Sony State of Play and even I think even the Games Fest, there's a horror game called Calypso Protocol. It looks really cool. I don't like horror games, but that game looks fucking rad. This to me is like the budget version. It's a different type of genre. Like in terms of the background and setting, it's more of like, I don't know, demonic looking shit versus like a science fiction horror. But it looked okay. Didn't really do much for me though. And like I said, I don't really like scary games anyway. So okay, next up was Flintlock: The Siege of Dawn. Another Kepler publisher, I think. The studio is A44. This is a multi-platform game coming on Game Pass early 2023. Third-person melee, and I think I read something along the bottom, was in like very fine print, that it was beta gameplay. So it's definitely got a ways to go. It looked so much like a game coming out on PlayStation called Forspoken. I don't really think Forspoken looks special to me. Some people think it looks great. It's not doing much for me. And this game looking like that, it kind of had the same vibe. I was like, okay, it's action, third person action, and I don't know, the action to me, like the moves and shit, like the combat, it doesn't look that great. I didn't see Forspoken or this game when I watched them. I wasn't like, oh shit, that looks really cool. It looks really detailed or intricate or difficult or something. It just looked like a regular hack and slash type game. So I don't think it looks bad. I just think it looks kind of boring. But again, it's beta. It's in beta right now. So I'm sorry. The trailer was pulled from beta footage, so I understand they have a long ways to go. This game could come out and be a fucking killer. Could be a total banger, and, I'll eat my words, but right now it just doesn't look good. All right, next up was Minecraft Legends. This is Xbox Game Studio, Mojang, multi-platform. It will be on Game Pass, no shocker there, 2023. This is actually an action strategy game. Minecraft is a very popular title. My normie daughter spent probably a good solid 2 to 3 years of just Minecraft. Like, that's all she ever wanted to talk about. It's all she wanted to do. It's all she wanted to play. I get it. I think it's a cool game in the concept. I think the graphics, I always thought the graphics were I was like, why do people think this is so great? But I get it. Like I said, I played with Legos when I was a kid, so I understand it doesn't need to always be graphically fucking crazy and just a powerhouse to be a good game. Gameplay is king. I totally believe that. It's just that Minecraft never grabbed me, and visually is kind of what pulled it down for me. I have played it a few times, but it was just to sort of mess around, and then I just checked out. But it's a very popular game. However, this is an action strategy game, so I don't know what that means. I'm not sure. The funny thing is when the trailer started, I was like, oh my God, is this Minecraft 2? Because the visuals looked improved. There was more detail. It didn't look so blocky. It looked like it got like a facelift. Maybe that's how Minecraft looks today, and I just don't know because I don't play. But to me, I was like, hey, this looks a lot better. I thought for sure it was going to be like Minecraft 2, but it's not. All right, next up was a game called Lightyear Frontier. This is a timed exclusive, multi-platform. Obviously, I say that twice. Game Pass, spring of 2023. Didn't look good to me. I didn't think this game looked that good. It had to me, it had double A sort of indie smell to it. It didn't, and that's not a terrible thing or anything. I'm not trying to shit talk the smaller studios. I'm just saying it didn't do anything new. You're in a mech and you're a farmer essentially, and you mine for shit. It had the vibes of like No Man's Sky in a mech. So it did nothing for me. Hard pass. Moving along with that one. Next up was The Last Case of Benedict Fox. This is Rogue Studio, timed exclusive, Game Pass, spring 2023. I thought visually it looked really cool. It's a side-scroller, sort of kind of horror-looking game. And the visuals I thought were, for an indie game, because that's what this looks like, I thought it looked strong for an indie game. But like I said, I'm not a big side-scroller fan, so go check that one out, though. I think for some people, there's like the visuals alone were like, okay, I'm gonna play that shit. It just didn't move the needle for me. Okay, next up was As Dusk Falls. This is an Interior Night Studio. This will be on Game Pass, July 19th, 2022. If I'm not mistaken, I forgot to write this one down. I missed this one. I think this is a PC game. I could be wrong, but I think this was just a PC only. This is a narrative-based game. I don't know the perspective because they had some developer come out. She talked about it, and then they showed like what the game looks like. I didn't like the way it looked. It had this interesting art style. The art style, the visuals looked fine to me. They looked pretty cool, I guess. But it was the motion. Everything moved in like this weird, like, I'm trying to think. Like there was no actual animation. Nothing moved. It was just sort of like images, like you were flipping through a comic book. And apparently it's a choose your own adventure, narrative driven type game where you will make decisions and answer questions that could lead to different parts of the story. And at the very end of the trailer, they showed a bunch of like webs of like the story and stuff. That's cool. Those games can be really cool. What's the name of that game? Detroit Become Human. That was the last big game that I played that was like that. But this doesn't look anything like that. The art is completely different, and the gameplay looks very different. So this game to me did not look good. Wasn't a good showing. Like for a debut, I didn't like it. All right, next up is Naraka Blade Point. This is a timed exclusive. This will be on Game Pass June 23rd, 2022. Third-person action game. If I'm not mistaken, this game isn't new. I think this is the one where they kind of made it seem like there was like a new campaign mode coming and they were changing it up, and so it didn't do much for me. It looked like another AA game, nothing special. We just keep moving along. I felt like when we hit games like this, some of these, to me, I think it was filler. Like I was like, okay, I don't really care about this. On to the next. Like I was waiting to get to the big games like Starfield, like Redfall. I wanted to know, obviously, Forza we knew was coming, but, and that's another thing too. That's right. I totally forgot. Forza isn't coming out till next year. And there was a lot of talk about that game coming this year. So it was supposed to be Starfield and Forza 7, I believe. So that's not happening. So, again, based on everything I see here, I don't see a AAA game, Microsoft exclusive game coming this year. There are games coming exclusively. I'm not saying there's not. And they needed to get that message. They needed to put out the flames of Microsoft doesn't have games coming. Is Game Pass worth it anymore? They needed to quell those arguments. They needed to make their fans feel better, and I think they did an okay job of that. And I'll talk more about it. But games like this, to me, I was like, okay, it just move it along. It was just to sort of fill in the show. It didn't do shit for me. So, all right, the next game up was called Pentiment. This is an Xbox game studio. They kept saying that, and I don't know what that means. I'm assuming, I know Xbox has their own studios, but when they say Xbox game studio, like, what team is that? So Sony has multiple teams, but it's like Sony Santa Monica. You know what I mean? They have Naughty Dog, and these are first person studios. So I don't know. Like, I'm not sure. Like, there's Sony San Diego, Sony Santa Monica. There's multiple Sony studios, and they each work on different projects. But to me, they just kept saying Xbox Game Studio, and I was kind of at a loss. I wasn't sure what that means. Like, okay, it's a first person studio, that's fine, but I don't know. Their naming convention always sucks anyways. Fucking, we're on the Xbox Series Xbox now instead of Xbox 4 like it should have been, right? 4. 360 was 2. Yeah, 4. So back to this game. Pentiment. This is a narrative adventure side scroller. This shit looked really fucking indie to me. The art was no good. It looked like a pop-up book, like watching characters like move around, and it to me, I just fucking hard pass. This one was definite filler for me, but maybe you like it, maybe you saw it and it's like something interesting and fun. There are going to be people who will see these games that I think are shit or I think are filler, and they're just going to glom onto them. They're just going to love them because that's the type of games they play. That's fine. That's fair. But I think generally speaking, this type of game and a lot of these games are like, this one was like, to me, this one really drug the show down. When I saw it, I'm like, what the fuck are we doing? What is this? And they sort of made it seem like it was a big deal. It wasn't. But okay, let's move along here. Next one up's called Grounded. This is Obsidian Entertainment, Xbox Game Studio. So I think Obsidian is a first party studio of Xbox, if I'm not mistaken. But no, I'm sorry, that's right. No, this is actually a multi-plat game. So maybe I think Obsidian works with Xbox. They have like a really close relationship, but regardless, I did not see this as an exclusive. They didn't show that, so I believe this is a multi-plat game. It's a first-person melee game, and I think they said this one was in beta, but I could be wrong. I think it looks, if I'm not mistaken, this was another one that said that the game will be coming, like you'll get the full game when this game releases. So in September, I guess the whole thing will come out. So I'm wondering if it's in beta right now. That's kind of how I read it, but I could be wrong. but it's basically Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. Um, the plot is you're playing as these children who have been shrunken down to little tiny, bug sized, and you're making your way through the backyard, just like the plot of the movie Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. Not a bad concept. I don't hate it. I think the movie was fantastic as a kid. I loved it. I still think the movie's a classic today. This game would have really fucking resonated with me back then, but right now, it just was like, okay, it looked fun. I'm sure kids will love this game. It didn't do anything for me. It was, like I said, cool concept, but to me, it looked like another sort of indie game. Pass. Nope, not strong. Next up was a game called, and I might not say this right, Uriban Shadow Legacy. This is by Baby Robot Games and Raw Fury. This is a timed exclusive. It will be on Xbox Game Pass 2023. This is a third-person melee action game. Visually, I thought this game looked really cool. This one, the concept of you're playing this like third-person view, so you can see yourself, and the female protagonist, she like uses the shadows, like she disappears into the ground. And it kind of, when I saw it, it kind of looked like Splatoon. If you've ever played Splatoon, you're like these little squids, and you shoot this colored ink, and you can paint the walls and the ground and everything. And then, when with your paint on the ground, you can sink into it and you can go basically underground almost because your ink is there. This game really had that feeling. That's the first thing I thought of when I saw it. I was like, oh, wow, it's like fucking an action RPG Splatoon. The art style looked good. The combat looked pretty decent. That player mechanic I thought gameplay mechanic I thought was pretty cool. It had the vibe of AA. Didn't look like anything spectacular. It's a timed exclusive, so but it looked okay. This one I thought was one of those games where I was like, okay, this looks like something I would play. Like, I want to kill some time. I want to knock out like a little 10-hour game. This looks like something. This would be a good fill for that. It did not have the gravitas and the production of like a AAA game though. All right, we're getting close to being done here, because then so everything that I went through, like all of these, if I go back and look from basically from Minecraft, so Lightyear, Gunfire. Oh, I missed one. Oh, I missed a game. My bad. Whoops. Let me go back here. I missed one right here. Between Lightyear and the case of Benedict Fox, I think I missed. Holy crap. Did I miss 2 games here? Oh, no, I didn't. I'm sorry. But I did miss this one. Gunfire Reborn. This is a multi-platform game. It's going to be on Game Pass coming October 2022. This is a first-person shooter roguelite 4-player co-op. This looked to me like it was very cartoonish, and I think you play as like animals, and you go around FPS. It looked like PvE, player versus environment, but I could be wrong. There may have been some PvP in there, but this to me looked like an indie game. Didn't do anything, special at all. And that's kind of what I was about to say was, you look at Lightyear, Gunfire, The Last Case, Dusk Falls, Naruka, Pentiment, Grounded, Uriban. Well, like I said, Uriban kind of stepped it up, but from those games, all were very indie to AA. I thought the middle of this showcase really started to bog down. Like I was like, okay, it felt like if we were at E3 and, which I still miss E3. God, I wish it wasn't gone. But E3, the showcases, Xbox, PlayStation, Ubisoft, doesn't matter. Bethesda, they typically they have that sort of like, that it's like a horseshoe. It's like a horseshoe or a U, where it's like it starts off like really high and then it lulls down and then it gets high again and then you end. And that's usually how these showcases go. To me, I thought this would be a little bit different because it's fully narrated. It's produced by Microsoft. They can edit out anything bad. They can do as many cuts as they want. They don't have to worry about any sort of issue of timing. And I think the Games Fest was the way not to do it. They did it really bad. The Games Fest, I need to talk about that one. I'll do a video because that shit wasn't good. However, this to me, like this middle section of games with this Xbox showcase, I really thought it lulled out. Like this was the low where I was like, okay, like can we move on to the next? Like every time a new trailer would come, I'm like, all right, let's see what's gonna, what's coming. Give me something good. And then it was another fucking Grounded or a Pentiment, and I was like, oh, moving along here. It was just kind of boring. So, however, they did pick it up towards the end, and this is where it started right here. And this is a game that I'm very interested in. Diablo 4, Blizzard Entertainment, multi-platform. This one, I may have missed it, but I did not see Game Pass for this one. So I believe there's no Game Pass for this Blizzard game. This is coming next year, 2023. I'm a fan of Diablo 3. I'm not sure if I'm going to go back and play Diablo 2. They remastered it. I think it looks really cool. I know it's more traditional Diablo. It just didn't... I like when it launched, there was all these issues with the servers and getting booted offline, all this other shit. So I kind of backed away from it. And now I'm playing other games, but I would still like to go back and play Diablo 2 because I never played 1 or 2. I jumped in on 3. So because 1 and 2, if I'm not mistaken, they were PC only. And I didn't PC game for many years. I don't PC game right now. I don't have I don't really have the funds to justify dropping $2,000 on like a really powerful tower, and getting a 4K monitor and all this stuff. And, cause that shit gets really expensive. So I have gamed on PC on and off throughout my life, but nowadays you just gotta, you gotta be able to afford to get the hardware that will push the games to the max that you want them to be. I can play games on my laptop right here, but they kind of suck. Like it looks like shit. But anyways, getting back to Diablo 1 and 2, I never played, and they came out many, many years ago. I couldn't even tell you. I want to say the first Diablo came out like 20 plus years ago, but I could be wrong. So when I saw this one, and let's begin with the trailer. So the trailer started off, and it was like this creepy, macabre looking character, and he's like raising the dead and shit, and I was like, what the fuck? This kind of has the feel of like, what is this, Diablo? And then sure enough, the trailer cuts to like the menu screen. The necromancer character walks up to this this like little campfire, and there's 4 other characters there, warrior style characters, and it was like, then they cut to one of the developers from Blizzard. I was happy to finally see this is coming out in 2023. I'm really stoked about this. I stopped playing Diablo 3, I don't know, maybe 2 years ago. I just haven't picked it back up. I was really having fun with that game, and I would jump back in every season, start a new character, and start running the rifts and everything like that. But it just got boring. It really did. It just kind of got repetitive. And to me, they've been milking the fuck out of that game. And then Blizzard just came out with Diablo Immortal, which I have been wanting to talk about. I've been seeing a lot of videos. I have been away from my home, and there's been a lot of stuff going on, so I haven't really had time to shoot any real videos and do a Sunday sum up or anything. But Blizzard just dropped this mobile game called Diablo Immortal, and it's getting fucking hammered right now because they are a fucking greedy ass company. They give 2 shits about creativity. So it's bittersweet for me when this developer was talking about this game and I see the game. It's just bittersweet because I'm like, you guys are you're greedy shits. Like, I don't fucking want to support this shit. And I guess the solution to that is obviously I won't buy or play. I think Diablo Immortal, I think it's free. I don't have to buy it, but I won't download Immortal and play it on my phone and give them any sort of capital. Like, I won't give them my time. I'm not going to, because the paywall in this Diablo Immortal, this mobile game, is fucking crazy. There are people who are reporting that to fully upgrade your character to be the best that it can be, have max level everything, all the best gear and all the best powers and all that shit, you could spend over 100,000 real dollars. Okay? Over fucking 10 stacks of real fucking American money. Like, that's crazy. That's, pay to win bullshit. So I know what Blizzard's all about, and Blizzard Activision is now Microsoft. They are a part of them. I don't know. I kind of get a little my wires get a little crossed because I want to play this game. I want to support this game. This game looks really good, but it just sucks because Blizzard just they're just, I don't know. They have really lost their creativity. This game, and we'll get into it. Let's start talking about the game. This game I was still really excited for. I'll be 100% cards on the table. I was like, fuck, I really want to play that game. So Diablo is in, like, what do they call it? Like isometric. So it's like top down looking, but it's like isometric action RPG. It's really fun. The gameplay is really addictive. The game loop is just fun. Like it's to me, it's has the perfect flow for just running and gunning. Just, kill a bunch of monsters, get a bunch of loot, finish the, whatever little world you're on or whatever map you're on, and then head back and cash out. It's a great game loop. I love it. The trailer for the Necromancer was really cool. Very, the production was high. The sound was good. It was really gross, but it was a really cool trailer. Then when they showed actual gameplay, I thought that shit looked tight. Like, it looked really good. The graphics, they went back because Diablo 3 kind of had more of a cartoonish style. The characters, the worlds, everything, the enemies. This Diablo 4 is definitely harkening back to Diablo 1, Diablo 2, where it's much more realistic and more visceral, and it looks kind of gross in a good way. I mean, I don't know. I guess gross in a good way seems weird, but I really thought it looked cool. I liked it. The gameplay looked fun. The characters were doing some crazy shit. They're throwing, magic spells and shit like that. I was all cool with it. So the other things too that I want to get into, because they're trying some new shit. And it's bittersweet because Blizzard, if this game is everything that I want it to be, it shows me that Blizzard is capable of doing good, doing good for gamers, like taking care of customers, providing the customers with what they want to play. Diablo Immortal is a fucking consumer game. That's all that shit is. They want you to fucking get hooked and just start forking over your money. That's all they want. That's all that piece of shit is. Which sucks too, because Diablo Immortal also, from what I hear, is really fun to play and it works really well. To me, this game looks like a game that I will get into, and I could just see myself getting lost playing this game. The changes that they have made, specifically making this an open world game that you can play in any which way you want. There are side quests now where you can talk to people and actually go on these little side quests for people and get rewards for it. The world itself, I guess you can travel anywhere you want. You can go anywhere you want. You can handle, the story any way you want. That's crazy. I mean, that to me, I don't think Diablo 1 or 2 was like that. I'm 99% sure that that's how it is, because Diablo 3 was not like that at all. You spawned in these maps, and the maps, the enemy variation would change up a little bit, but for the most part, you're kind of just playing the same maps over and over. And as you played through the campaign, you would experience every single map and all the biomes. And then at the end game, you would go back and play rifts and all this different cool shit. This, to me, changes the game. Like, making this an open world game like this is pretty fucking rad. And I'm just curious, like, how do you, if it's an open world game, do you seek refuge in, like, these? That's another thing they talk about. Like, there's towns, there's areas that you can clear in the open world, and then those areas, once you kill all the monsters, the town will actually grow. People will come and build the town back up, and then you can go there and talk to people and get quests and shit. If you don't clear it out enough, or if you leave for too long, it kind of look like the monsters will take back over. So, I mean, that's really cool. I like that. That's a really cool gameplay mechanic, and I'm like, the little meta game, I'm all in on that shit. So that looked really cool. The funny thing is they said there are almost 158 dungeons. What the fuck does that mean? Just say over 150. You'd be fine. But it's like almost 158 dungeons. Like, so does that mean you're at 157 and a quarter? So you have 157 and 3/4 of a fucking dungeon. We're almost there. Like, that was weird. That's such a stupid thing to say. But there's world events, like world bosses that spawn in, and you can join up with other players. And the only thing that I wasn't certain of was they said you can join players in the open world. Are they saying that the open world is like a server? So like when you go on with your character, can you just randomly run into people in the open world? Because that's cool. I really like that. It changes the game completely. Instead of having to find someone that has the game that you're, call a buddy up and say, hey, I'm playing this game. And then you guys get on there and, get into a party chat. Then you join up and join each other's games. This sounds a little more organic if it really is just a true open world where players can come and go as they please on the same world. That's pretty tight. So I'd be curious how that works. They did say there was couch co-op. And that's the other thing too. So there's PvP. So that's fucking. I don't know if Diablos before this, of the 1 or 2 had this, but this is actual PvP where there's a section in the open world. I'm assuming it's got to be gated. Like there's got to be some sort of load in or load out of like this sort of battlegrounds. But you get to go in and you can just get into it with anybody you see. And now I'm assuming there's probably monsters and the environment can get you as well. But that sounded pretty fucking rad to me. It kind of reminded me of Elder Scrolls Online. That's kind of what I was seeing. Like it had the feel of like ESO when you load in your game and wherever you are, wherever you left off, wherever your character's at, anywhere on the map. The map's fucking enormous. You load in and there could be people that are on the server that you'll see. So like my character, when I log in every day for my daily rewards and stuff, the town that I'm in, I think it's called Vardenfell. Every time I load in, there's like anywhere from like a dozen to 30 people, like real players roaming around, going to the blacksmith, going to the clother, going to the bank, talking to people, having conversations, fighting each other. I'm wondering if they're doing the same thing in Diablo. That would really be cool. I think that would change. I think that really changes the game in a huge way. But they didn't say that specifically, so I'm not going to get my hopes up. But that would be kind of neat because they did say join other players in defeating world bosses, and then they show this world boss show up, and the camera actually pulls out really far, and your character, because there's like 6 or 8 characters, like your character gets really small on the screen, and then this giant monster's fighting a bunch of people. I don't know if that meant that these 4 or 6 people, whatever, joined up in a party and then they got into the same game, or if this really was just sort of like random open world shit. So we'll see. I'm excited. To me, I thought it definitely had Diablo Destiny kind of feel, like Elder Scrolls Online / Destiny. It felt like it had the same. There was some similarities that I just couldn't not see. I was like, oh, this could be really good. So, and again, it's fucking Blizzard, man. Just get it together. Blizzard, can you just make games for gamers? And I'm cool with you making a fucking money pit of a mobile game. I'm cool with that, but Jesus, like turn down the greed. Like $100,000 for one fucking game, a free to play game. Get fucked. Like that's, again, every time I think about it, I'm like, it's like it's Blizzard. They're a piece of shit. They're a shitty kind of company, and they have been treating their player base and their fans as like crap, I think. And now this game comes out, and it's just bittersweet. I'll get over it. I'm sure I'll buy it. So anyways, let's move along here. Sea of Thieves was next up, Season 7. Obviously, this is an Xbox Games exclusive. This is on Game Pass. This is coming July 21st. The trailer I thought was funny and cool. I liked it. I know what this game is. Never played it. Don't have an Xbox. It seems pretty cool. But I guess in this new season, you can become a pirate captain, so you can have your own ship and decorate it the way you want. And it sounds really cool. So if you're into Sea of Thieves, this looks like it's going to be something special. So good for the Xbox gamers there. Next up was a game called Ravenlock. This was developed by Coco Cucumber. I think that's Coco Cucumber Games. This is a multi-platform game coming on Game Pass 2023. Third-person action adventure. This one, to me, I thought looked really pretty. It was very colorful. The color palette was like very vibrant. Gameplay-wise, it looks okay. It's another third person roam around in a fantasy world. It didn't do anything spectacular for me, but it was okay. Okay. Moving along here, the next game was Cocoon. This is by Annapurna Games. This is a timed exclusive. It'll be on Game Pass 2023, Inside and Limbo creators. So if you have never played either of those games, Limbo or Inside, I didn't play Inside because it was on Xbox only and I didn't have one. And at the time, I didn't think that it was ever going to come to PlayStation. So I just listened to a spoiler cast and I had the whole game spoiled for me. So I knew what happens and I know how the game ends and everything. So I wasn't going to go play it, even though I can play it right now. But I did play Limbo, cold. Like I didn't know shit about it. I just decided to play it. That was a really fantastic game. They're a very artistic group, and the games they make have a really cool theme to them, and the visuals they just know how to get a lot out of a little. Like they use music and tone. There's usually no talking. If I'm not mistaken, there's no talking in the other two games at all. I'm assuming this game will be the same. I thought it looked really interesting. The art style, obviously, the gameplay mechanics, I wasn't exactly sure. You're like a little man with wings. You look like a firefly almost, or like a beetle or something. But you fly around, and I don't know. It's weird, and it's got some interesting, I don't know, themes to it. But I will check this one out. Next up was a game called Wo Long Fallen Dynasty. This is Team Ninja Studios. This will be coming out on Game Pass early 2023. Another third-person action melee game. Looked pretty cool. Didn't do much for me, really. Like, again, I hate to harp on this, but it seemed like another AA studio game. Next up was, this was a what do you call it? So Persona Portable, Persona Golden, and Persona 5 Royal, those are already on PlayStation, but they're now coming to Xbox. So and I don't know if this was a timed deal necessarily, or if Sony and Atlas Games had just had a relationship. Phil Spencer came out and he specifically about this game, he made a point, or Xbox made a point to say that Atlas and Xbox are now working together. So I don't know if there was some sort of monies issue or if it just Xbox had no interest in Atlas, but obviously they do now, and they're getting these older games. I don't like these games. Persona games don't do shit for me. I've seen plenty of gameplay. I've listened to tons of creators and podcasters talk about how special they are and all this other shit. I just don't have any interest whatsoever. They're very Japanese, which is very niche. I understand there's plenty of people who love those games. So if you're into sort of like that anime, Japanese style turn-based combat games, this is your baby right here. So, all right. Next up was a quick little snippet of Hideo Kojima, who makes, he makes some of the, I would say, the most polarizing type games. Like, they're not always spectacular in terms of like how they're received critically. Hideo Kojima's he's the darling. He can do no wrong in the media's eyes, which always makes me question it a little bit. I don't think that his games, they're, oh God, how do I say this? I don't want to sound like being a fucking dick or I'm shitting on the guy. I think his games are really cool. I think they look really cool. I think they're very, they look really fun. I've heard so many people say that like the Metal Gear games, which he's made like, I don't know, fucking 5, 6, 7 of them, whatever, that the Metal Gear games, the stories are so convoluted and there's so much fucking information that you almost don't know what's going on. It's hard to keep track of them. But the gameplay in between all of the exposition and all the story being told is really fun. Okay. I mean, so I guess it's like he's like the creative side of him in the narrative part, the narrative department is very, very niche, and you have to really want to like it, or it has to grab you in a certain way. But the gameplay is much more mainstream. Most people play the game. They really enjoy the gameplay. That's fine. But to me, the narrative shit has always drug it down for me. I've always avoided those games because I'm like, oh God, I don't want to fucking, like, I've watched some people play the game. I've seen a couple of videos here and there. I purchased and played Metal Gear 5, The Phantom Pain. It was fun. I put about a dozen hours into it, but I had no idea what the fuck was going on. I felt completely lost. The gameplay was fun. Graphically, it looked cool. There were some cool moments and everything, but anytime the narrative shit happened, I was like, what the fuck's happening? I don't know. Who are these people? Are these demons? Is this based in real world or is this fantasy? I was completely lost. So it didn't connect with me, so I just turned the shit off. But I know that Hideo Kojima has a huge following. People who love his games, love him. That's totally fine. I thought Death Stranding, I'm going to play that game. Looks great, but being a fucking futuristic postal man, I don't see the fucking catch. But apparently it's fucking catchy, so I'll give it a shot. But apparently, Hideo Kojima is making a game for Xbox. The only thing is they didn't say exclusive. He didn't say exclusive. Is it multi-platform? Is it a timed exclusive? We literally learned nothing from his appearance. So, and that's how I took it. I'm like, okay, that was a big fucking nothing burger. It was literally just to show that Hideo Kojima was working with Xbox. That's it. All right, so let's get on to this last piece here. So Starfield. This is what I think most people were waiting for. It's what I was waiting for this whole showcase. Are they going to show gameplay? And they did. Good job, Xbox. I think, to me, this was something that was absolutely fucking necessary, especially after delaying it just like a month ago and all the fucking chaos and all the noise that caused. They really needed to show gameplay, and I'm glad they did. Now let's talk about this, what we saw. So first of all, this is by Bethesda Studios. This is an exclusive. This will be only on Xbox. It will be on fucking Game Pass in 2023. That really surprises me. It really does. In my mind, I'm thinking Xbox is going to up the price of Game Pass. I think so, because I can't imagine how much money they are leaving on the table strictly by keeping it off PlayStation. That alone, they're leaving tons of money on the table. How much money are they keeping on the table on top of the fact that you don't have to buy this game if you have Game Pass? So to me, this is their strategy. They're going to take these really big, hyped up titles that are coming. They're going to throw them on Game Pass to boost their Game Pass subscriptions. Like that's how I see this. I don't see it any other way. And Microsoft is rich. We all know that. They can buy Sony if they wanted to right now. They're printing their own money, and that's fine. But man, this just really seems weird. When I saw that Game Pass, I was fucking like, my eyes lit up. I was like, no fucking way. I didn't think they would. That's their thing though. They can afford it, right? Bethesda, they bought Bethesda for a few billion, I believe. So they don't have to like pay Bethesda anything. They're part of Microsoft. I guess this really is it's a strategy, but I don't know. I just think it's weird. But it's their fucking money, right? They can do whatever they want. All right, so let's talk about the trailer. Okay, first of all, we know that it's a first person / third person shooter. That's interesting. I'm not sure how that's going to work. We saw gameplay in both. So, and we saw shooting, like the action was in both. And for a moment, I thought when we saw the third person, I thought it was like you would switch to third person in sort of these non-combat areas, but no, there's some shooting and some flying around and jumping and shit in third person. So I don't know how that's going to work. Interesting though, but that's a huge scope, because having a third person over the shoulder view versus a first person, they are two different games. You have to develop for both. And the fact that they chose to do both, that kind of tells me that, yeah, they probably got out over their skis by putting this game, the release date for this year, and then delaying it. Because that to me, just that one thing alone, from what I understand between the two, first person versus third person, to have them coexist in the same game takes a lot of fucking work. So good for them. That's cool. I like that. Now, talking about the actual shooting, I thought the shooting did not look good. For me, the gameplay with any sort of action, the shooting, it just didn't look smooth. It looked like Fallout 4 to me. Now, I'm sure it could get better. I'm sure it will get better. What we saw is not the game we will be playing, I'm sure, in a good way. To me, watching the first person action, like when the guns are going off, it sounded okay, but it just didn't look tight. It did not move smoothly. It just didn't grab me. Graphically, I thought it looked okay. I thought it looked good. It did not look great to me. I didn't see it and like my fucking jaw hit the floor, like, holy crap, that looks amazing. No, it didn't. It didn't have the polish that I was kind of thinking that they would have. It looked, and I'm sorry to say this, but it looked like another Bethesda game. It just did. Now, the setting and all this other stuff that we'll talk about, sure, that adds in total different layers of goodness, which I'm all for. But visually, what I saw, just on a graphic level, nothing blew me up. Like, I wasn't like, oh my God. In fact, one of the shots where we see an overview of a city and like the ship is landing in the city, there was like trees, and the fucking trees just looked flat as fuck. And they looked like they were all copy and pasted. I was getting the vibes of Fallout 76. Like I just was. It just doesn't look that good to me. The locations though, talking about those, I thought it was rad. I really did. I fucking, like, some of the stuff that I saw, I was like, man, I'm really interested. Like, this trailer piqued my interest to 100%. Like, I'm definitely going to keep an eye out on this one because this is what I wanted to know. All the fucking hype and everyone going off about fucking these 8-second trailers and these fucking cinematic bullshit trailers. All of that shit was annoying the shit out of me. Now we actually know it's tangible. Now my brain, I can wrap my head around what type of game this is. And the type of game that this is really fucking interesting. Like, I want to play this game. This looks fun. I just don't think it is. It did not have the fucking polish. It just didn't have the polish. I'm sorry. The gameplay itself in all aspects looked very stiff. It just looked stiff and sort of, I don't know. I don't know how to say it. It just didn't have like the fluidness, and the controls didn't seem tight. And talking about the graphics, this game is an RPG, and this is like these RPGs. I've said this before. RPGs are really fucking hard to make. Role-playing games, like real actual role-playing games, where you create a character from scratch, you choose their backstory, and then you go out into this world, and there's all these choices that can be made, and characters could live or die, could, prosper or be put in prison based on your actions. This is like the truest form of RPG, and I love them. I love RPGs. Another reason why I'm really excited for this game. The everything about it, I thought, oh man, how do I say this? Everything about it was so inviting. Like, it was pulling me in, and then it would show me something that I was like, like the graphically, the facial animations to the characters that were like the NPCs that you meet, the characters that you talk to, it just didn't look good. I'm sorry. There was like characters that were like, when they were talking, they were like, their mouth and their eyes would like move around all kind of funky. Like, Surprise was like, oh, it was like, but their head really didn't move. Like, they barely moved their head, so it wasn't like they were like, I don't know, they weren't really alive to me. To me, that's a red flag. Like, the mouth, the mouth animations didn't really match up tightly with the words and the dialogue. Now, the voice acting sounded pretty good. The voice acting and the dialogue sounded like what they were saying sounded good. The tone that they were using, but just visually how it looked, I was like, dang, this doesn't look that good to me. The character creation, get into that shit looked really cool. Very, very in depth. Very, like, you could create just about any type of person that you want. I mean, human wise, which is always fun. You know, you can make a fucking goofy looking crazy person, or you can, you know, make what you like. What I always do, this is just me. This is a little insight into me. When I make a character for any game, if I can just, if the height and the weight and the, you know, the muscularity and you know, everything about that, if all that's customizable, I always make myself and what the shape that I wish I was in. So like if I'm making, you know, if it's a fantasy game and I'm going to be like an elf, or I'm going to be like a barbarian or something, I make him look like me, but fit, because I'm not fit. So I always like, it's fun, but that's part of like what a role-playing game is. You're playing a role of a character, of your character that you can dream up using your imagination. And when character creations that are in depth like this, it just adds that level of like, you're more invested in the character that you're creating. So to me, I thought the character creation was exciting. I was like, oh shit, this is awesome. Because also some people go the total opposite direction. They'll make someone who looks nothing like themselves. Like, some short person who's very, in real life, who's, maybe even like 5 foot and, weighs 100 pounds. They'll go make like an 8 foot, orc or some shit like that, and they'll make him all fat or whatever and give his face like crazy face. You can just have fun. You can create whatever you want, and I like that shit. So that was good. They showed like some quick screens of progression, and they talked about it pretty quickly. Progression's always cool, and it's mandatory in an RPG. You always have to be improving your character, whether it's in combat, whether it's in dialogue, whether it's being a renegade or paragon, making those sort of choices that craft and make your character. That's all. That all seems bright. Like it seems like it fits. I wish they would have talked a little bit more about it, but I'm sure it's fine. I'm not going to really harp on that too much, because that, to me, that's all about balance. And as long as they have the balance between the enemies that you fight and how powerful you can become, as long as the balance is there and the reward system is constantly feeding you, it's going to be fun. It's going to be good. There was a couple of times where I for real got some No Man's Sky vibes, where you see like there's parts where the characters are like walking around, they're like mining for shit, and just different shots where in third person when you see characters walking around on these planets and shit and in these cities. I don't know. I got some No Man's Sky vibes, and that's good and bad. No Man's Sky, to me, what it is today, is really interesting, really fun. I think I could get lost in that game if I really wanted to, but there's just so much mining and having to collect shit to progress and move forward and increase your power and your ship's power and, your ability to navigate space and everything. I was kind of getting that. And also what I was getting was when we see the characters like walking around these planets, there were encounters where you can see the characters fighting enemies. That all looked fine. I was cool with that. But it just, I don't know. It just, to me, the what they showed in sort of the environment when you're out in the wild, it looked kind of barren. And we didn't see much of that, so I'm not going to grade too harshly on that, but I noticed that. And that's how I thought No Man's Sky was. I thought it was kind of barren. There were so many areas that was just like you're in the middle of nowhere doing dick. And these little tiny little creatures are running around, but there's not much happening. And I kind of saw a little bit of that. Could be good, could be bad. Like I said, No Man's Sky has turned itself around. So what the game launched at many, many years ago is not the same game that you buy today. I just sort of felt like it was, there was just some correlation there. I just saw little things where like, yeah, I don't know. There was some spaceship creation that they showed. They talk about space flight. They show some dogfighting. I thought the dogfighting looked bad to me. The space battles, they look like shit. Just straight up. It looked to me like it was a flat background, and there was just a couple of ships in front of you, and then when you blew them up, there was some decent particle effects, but for the most part, it again looked fucking barren. That part did nothing for me. And furthermore, I thought it looked stiff. It didn't look fun. It looked sort of lame to me. So the reports that had come out that Xbox fans fucking, shot down and said, oh, it's bullshit. This guy's full of shit. The guy who worked on this game or supposedly developed for this game who said that the space flight was crap, the flying was crap. I can see it. Sorry. I saw that shit. And I was like, that doesn't look good. It looked very just boring and flat. It just looked really flat to me. So the base building side of it. Oh, well, I'm sorry. Let me back up. The ship customization, that's cool. That part was interesting and it was cool, and it looked like there was a lot of like coloring you can do, and you can move parts of your ship around. It's just the ship didn't look cool. Like, it wasn't a cool ship design. It wasn't the type of ship where I'm like, oh man, I want to change this. I want to move this around. Like, and literally we just saw like pieces of the ship being moved off and put on the other side like Legos. Not terrible. I'm not shitting on it. It just didn't. That part of it was like, I think the expectation was like people would be like, no fucking way no way you can build your own ship. It just didn't seem like that to me. It just didn't have that feel. It just looked sort of like, okay, you can take apart the ship and mold it in different ways, and you can paint it any way you want. Okay, that's pretty cool. It's not bad, but it just didn't, like, can you buy pieces of your ship and like change the cockpit out completely? Can you put a whole new, like different sort of pieces to the hull? Can you add to it? They scrolled through right at the end of that segment where they just showed like a couple of ships real quick. There was some variations there, and I just want to see that more explored. I'm not saying it's bad. I don't think it was bad. It didn't move the needle for me. What I saw when they were actually customizing a ship, it did not move the needle whatsoever for me. It looked kind of boring. The base building looked very Fallout 4 to me. I really felt that this really was Fallout 4 in space. That's what I was thinking, with some definite expansion on the scope, 1,000%. But it just had those vibes, like Fallout 4. They just said, you know what, let's take Fallout 4 and put it in space, and then we'll expand on it. That's really what it feels like. They talked about exploring planets. Well, Todd Howard did. You know how I feel about that guy. They talk about the exploration, and he was saying how there's like multiple planets in a system, and then there's like over 100 systems. I think he's what he said, or whatever. There's like 100 planets plus or something like that, and moons and different things you can explore. Okay, and when he said explore, in my mind, again, I went right back to No Man's Sky. I'm like, okay, because in No Man's Sky, you can literally fly to any planet you see that you can get to, that your ship is capable of getting to. You can land anywhere on that planet that you want. You can walk around in every single inch of that planet you can go through. You can explore the caves. You can shoot the ground and mine shit, and you can you can change the landscape in general. There's creatures and things. But the point is you can go anywhere on that planet. Can you do that here? I wasn't 100% clear, again, and I'm a little bit gun shy with Todd Howard. When he says things, I'm like, how much is that bullshit? How much of that is just hype? How much are you just sort of trying to sell something because he knows what's going on, right? Like, he knew Fallout 76 wasn't ready. That's been reported. Like, everyone knew at Bethesda Game Studios, including Todd Howard, and they just shit it out anyways. Okay? I know they delayed this game, and I understand, and I'm glad that they did. If it's not ready, that's fine. The issue that I have is when I hear him say things, I'm like, I'm not 100%. I don't believe him. I don't believe every word he says. Some people do. Some people, they fucking hang off of every word that guy breathes. And no matter what he says, he's just, oh God, Howard, he's so amazing. It's like, okay, but he's bullshitted, right? It's okay. So if he's bullshitted, and I'm not saying that, and again, he's not a piece of shit person. He's not a fucking dickhead. That's not what I'm saying. It's just not, he's just not trustworthy. I don't trust the guy. So going back to this planet thing, if you can do that, if you can fly anywhere on the planet, anywhere you want, and you can get out and you can fucking roam around and get into fucking trouble and shit like that, that's fucking huge. That is a huge scope. I'm curious, because if these planets are already charted, right? Because in No Man's Sky, it's procedurally generated. The game is producing the shit on the fly, randomly. are this is a scripted game. So all of these planets, to my understanding, that means they would have to be static. So like if you go to that planet, it's always going to be the same. It's not going to change or evolve. Now you can get into some shit and maybe change the politics or whatever, or explore it. But what can you actually do? And what's the purpose, right? What if if there's over 100 planets to go to, and they're actual planet size locations, and you can travel all the way around the planet in every direction and do whatever you want to it and on it? That's a huge fucking scope. And again, comparing it to No Man's Sky, and I'm sorry to keep doing that, but it's just the only thing that I can think of. No Man's Sky is being procedurally generated, means the algorithm is creating that shit on the fly, whereas this is a totally narrative based game that there is a beginning, middle, and end to your story. If it's that's how I take it, as a RPG where you're going to live out your fantasy, role playing as basically like an astronaut in the future, in the far, far future, and getting to do all this really cool shit that every science fiction fan wants to do and would love to do in the future. That's great. But their style of games, like I said, with Fallout 4, there was an ending to the story. There are actually multiple endings. How does that work? How does all of these planets, and exploring every single one of them, how does that mold to your story, to your narrative, and the journey that your character goes on? How? You know what I mean? Like that's such a gigantic scope. And I'm just curious, and I'm wondering if there will only be a certain amount of planets that will be narrative focused, where you go to these planets to actually move the story forward, and you'll get cinematic sort of moments, these big spectacle moments that are scripted moments, and then you can leave that planet and go to the next part of the story or whatever. But I really, really have a hard time believing that the story arc touches every one of those 100 plus planets. I just have a hard time believing that. That's and again, if they do that, they win. If they can do that, where you need to go to every single planet, but how much fucking time can you actually spend with all of this stuff? It's like, what is this, like 1,000-hour game? Is it a 50,000-hour game? So it just, I don't know. Some interesting questions that I don't think were 100% answered. It actually provided more questions for me, obviously. But if they do it right, if they can complete this task and they put out a finished game, a polished game that's not buggy, that doesn't fucking crash, that doesn't have characters falling through the floor, and doesn't have characters who get stuck hung up on a rock or walk into a closet and can't come out and you got to reset and fucking load a save. If all of that is avoided, then I think that this game could be fucking magnificent. If the story is tight and it's strong, and the characters and the bonds that you build with the characters that you meet along the way on your journey, man, that's great. I mean, this sounds like a fucking game I could totally just get lost in. And that's what I want, right? That's what I think you and I both want the same thing when we play video games. We want to escape and, just unplug, step away from reality for a while. This game really could just fucking quench that thirst. And I want them to be successful. I hope this isn't bullshit. I hope Todd Howard isn't fucking full of shit. I hope that he's actually going to provide what he says that his studio can provide. I'm just not I'm not 100% sold what their scope is versus what their story is, because this is a story-driven game. Maybe it's not. Maybe all this is bullshit. Maybe it's like, no, there's no story whatsoever. You just go around and get into shit. Okay, that's a different take. But yeah, we'll see. I'm glad they showed it. It was cool to actually see gameplay. I thought the music sounded really cool. I like the music. Xbox fans have plenty to chirp about right now. Good for them. Now they can, now they have some ammo to go back at these Sony fans, because I know these Sony fans have been going hard on these motherfuckers. They have been talking some mad shit in the comments. I've been seeing it. I know I haven't been on here in a while. I've been away taking care of some family stuff, but I still read. I still watch YouTube all the time. I'm still reading comments on the regular, and I've been seeing a lot of shit talking. And a lot of the content creators I listen to, they've had a lot of ammo to just fire off at Xbox fans right now. Rightfully so. Rightfully so. But I think this show and Starfield in particular, showing the gameplay there really helped, give the Xbox fans something to lean on because I think they needed it. So with that said, I'm going to wrap up here with a few of some of the points that I wanted to make about this whole showcase in general. I don't think that this showcase was great. I don't think it was bad. I think it was good. I think it was just a solid, it's good. It was a good show. It wasn't fucking great at all. I think they needed more. I think they really needed more quality, like AAA bangers, like some real shit that's Xbox exclusive. Okay. As I said before, they showed a lot of like AA studio type games, that the indie / AA level quality tier, however you want to say it. I'm going to reiterate, that's not a bad thing. I'm playing Sniper Elite 5 and I'm fucking loving that game. There are things about that game that do not meet the standards of like AAA quality. They're absolutely not. And I think I'm going to do a video on my thoughts on it so far, because I'm really loving this game. Graphically, it's not killing me. It's not like, oh my God, this is so amazing. It has some cool looking shit here and there, but there are some fucking dated looking graphics in that game. So to me, I think Rebellion, who's the developer, I think Rebellion Studios and Sniper Elite 5, I would throw them in that sort of AA category. I would not throw them in that AAA category. I wouldn't, me personally. I really feel like there was a lot of that in this showcase. There was a lot of AA games and a lot of indie games. There were some AAAs. There were some things to get excited about if you're an Xbox owner / PC player. But was it enough? I don't think so. That's just me. But I really thought that they could have given more to their fans. And there's a point that I want to bring up here. Now, please don't hold my feet to the fire on this one, because I might be off maybe by one or two. And what I'm talking about here is exclusives versus non-exclusives. So, excuse me. So I went through, as I was making my notes, I counted 7 Xbox exclusives coming to Xbox only, no other console. I counted 7. Okay, again, I might be wrong, maybe one or two, more or less, but I'm pretty certain, because I went back and double checked. I counted 7 games that will be Xbox console only. Okay, I counted 13 multi-platform games. Okay, and then I counted 8 timed exclusives, which means those games will release on Xbox for, it'll release first there, 30 days, 3 months, a year, whatever. But they're not exclusives. They will be coming to PlayStation, other consoles, right? Even Nintendo. So that means that 21 of the games that they showed will be on PlayStation. That kind of, as I was counting them up, I was like, wait, there's no way there can be, there's got to be more, right? And I went back and counted again. I'm like, holy shit. Yeah, there's only 7 games that are Xbox exclusives. That's not good. That's not good. Me personally, I think, and again, this is assuming that all of these games release on time, because as I said at the beginning, they started off by saying the games that they're going to show at the showcase, they will be releasing in the next 12 months. So the next year of, gaming on Xbox, this is what you have to look forward to. Okay, sounds good. There were a lot of games there, and I'm not saying there's not a lot of games for Xbox players to play. Okay, and when we're talking about the quality of them, the production level of them, that's a different argument. But to me, I was really surprised that there were only 7 games that, and again, I keep saying that I could be wrong. Maybe I missed 1 or 2. Maybe it's 10. I don't know. But I went back and looked. I would have expected more. They own so many studios right now. I'm really surprised that there are not more Xbox only games. I'm just surprised. There were 8 timed exclusives. So, So eight of these games will be on Xbox for a little while, and they're going to come over to PlayStation. And then there was 13 games that were just straight up multi-platform already. Like, they were showing off the games, and that's not uncommon. Sony does it. They do it all the time. They show off games that are coming to Xbox, but they say, coming to PlayStation 5, and they'll throw a date up there. But then it's like, it's not exclusive. It's not a PlayStation-only game. So Sony's guilty of this too, but that really hit home with me. I was surprised. I would think that Microsoft would be doing more to justify owning an Xbox versus getting on Game Pass. And I think that this show to me told me that they don't care about that anymore. They don't care about getting people on Xbox consoles. What they give a fuck about is getting that sub. They want subscriptions on Game Pass. That's what their goal is right now. And I've made my points about that. I'm glad Sony's not doing that entirely. They could. We could be heading down that path. But right now, I see Xbox not really selling their console. Like, this showcase didn't show me, like, you got to get a fucking Xbox. You have to get an Xbox. Actually, no. I can get a Game Pass subscription, and then I can go get a PC, and I can play damn near every one of these games on a fucking PC. I don't need an Xbox. Now, me as a console gamer, it kind of leads me towards like, okay, maybe I should get an Xbox. Okay, fair enough. But it still doesn't mean that you need to have a console, an Xbox console. And I just think that Microsoft has sort of, I'm not saying they've given up on the race with the console race. I don't think they have entirely. I just think that they have, they're racing in two different lanes right now, and Sony is racing in one. Sony wants to sell PlayStations. That's their goal. Okay? If they can get people on PlayStation Plus, that's a plus. That's a bonus. That's good. That's great. Whatever. But Xbox is over here pumping out consoles, and they're saying you can have a 5-year-old console and still play all the new games as long as you have Xbox Game Pass. They're not selling the console to me. And this show to me, I thought was a little bit lackluster in that regards. There was a lot of games that I was like, well, I'll be playing that. That'll be on, PlayStation. But again, so many of these games, I was like, I don't really fucking care. That I didn't see any games on here that I was fucking, oh my God, have to play. Diablo and Starfield, Redfall, meh, hit or miss. I could take it or leave it. That's fine. But Starfield and Diablo 4, which Diablo 4 is coming to PlayStation. So one out of the two games that I saw that I was like, I need to play those games, one out of the two are coming to PlayStation already. So yeah, I don't know. That one, when I started counting those off, I was really surprised. I was shocked. To be honest with you, I expected to see more for Xbox consoles, but this is not what they're doing. And do I think Sony's going to do a state of play to respond? They're going to do another one. I'm sure they will. I'm going to do a video on their last state of play, which I have my own thoughts on, in the Games Fest or whatever the fuck it's called. I will probably do videos for each one of those, just because there was a lot to talk about on both of those shows, like there was with this one. But I think, yes, Sony will do another state of play. What do I think it'll be? Who knows? We'll see. Do they have to? Maybe. I personally think they do. I think they should really continue the momentum that they have right now, but that's just my opinion. I think overall, I'm going to wrap it up here. I think overall it was a good show. I think it was good. I don't think it was great. I don't think they gave enough to the Xbox console player. I think they really pushed the Game Pass, which they've been doing. I think the quality of games that are coming out on Game Pass right now and the games that they're really putting front and center, there are a few bangers in there. There's no one denying that. But a lot of it just felt like AA indie shit. Now, that's not all bad. I've said before, not shitting on those studios, but they're just not big budget games. And I think Sony is over here doing that. I think Sony is, on their side, they're doing the big budget games on a regular basis. So, but those are just my thoughts. So, thank you for sticking around. Thank you for taking the time. If you haven't already, click the subscribe button, click the like button, and share it with a friend if you think somebody else might like it. I appreciate you taking the time. You have a great day, and I will talk to you later. Bye.